Jayo Sri Vrindavan, Sri Vrindavan, Sri Vrindavan, Jai Sri Vrindavan.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare.
By the causeless mercy of Shri Guru and Gauranga, we have this evening come to Prem Sarovar. Is everyone able to hear? Is there anyone who cannot hear properly? Wherever we go in Sri Braj Dham, countless pastimes of pure love are taking place. Prem Sarovar is one of the very, very sacred, worshipable places of Sri Braj Bhumi. This lake is filled with the tears of the love of the hearts of Sri Radharani and Sri Krishna. The tears of their heart's love merge together to form Prem Sarovar. One day, Sri Radharani and Sri Gopinath sat together on a beautiful throne, surrounded by their loving Sakhis. At that time, a large black bumblebee, honeybee, was buzzing around Sri Radharani's lotus feet. And then that honeybee, bumblebee, began to hover around her lotus face, thinking it to be the sweetest of all lotus flowers. Srimati Radharani was feeling some disturbance by this bumblebee buzzing around her and around her and around her, drinking the nectar of her beauty. It was at that time that Lord Sri Krishna gave indication to Madhumangal, who picked up stick and chased that bumblebee, chased it into the forest and far away. Some time later, Madhumangal returned, very happily and proudly proclaiming that Madhusudan is gone. I have chased Madhusudan away and he will never return. Madhusudan is a name for bumblebee. It is also named for Shyam Sundar, when Srimati Radhika heard that Madhusudan has gone away and he will never return, although Shamsundar was sitting right at her side, she felt intense agony of loving separation. This anguish of separation reached such an intense height of ecstatic love that she was weeping, uncontrollably weeping. Her hairs were standing on end, her limbs were trembling, her voice was choked up as she cried, "Hey Govinda, hey Govinda, hey Prananath, where have you gone? Where have you gone? Hey Krishna, hey Krishna." Crying, 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 incessant tears flowing from her eyes. She fell to the ground, weeping incessantly. Krishna, seeing the intensity, the purity of the ecstatic love of Srimati Radharani for him, lost control. Seeing her love so much stimulated his ecstatic love that he was crying in separation from Srimati Radharani. "Hey Radhe, hey Radhe, where have you gone?" And torrents and torrents and torrents of tears were flowing from his eyes. His limbs trembled and he fell to the ground. Seeing this unbelievable sight of loving exchanged, Prem by Chitra, all of the Sakhis were weeping, and they all fell to the ground unconscious. All of the stones melted. The trees were weeping. Even the animals were weeping and falling to the ground. But then two parrots, Sri Radha's parrot and Sri Krishna's parrot, chanted the holy names of Radha and Krishna very sweetly into their ears. And Srimati Radharani and Lord Sri Krishna awakened and gazed at one another in deep spiritual love. The incessant torrents of tears that Radha and Gopinath shed merged together to form Prem Sarovar. Separation in union. Prem Vachitya. The ecstasy that they experienced here, especially the ecstasy that Srimati Radharani manifested here, is not possible for anyone else, because she has the exclusive proprietorship of the supreme state of Mahabhav. Even Krishna cannot fathom the ecstasy of Radha's love. Even Krishna is thinking that I am Rasaraj, I am Ras Bihari, I am the reservoir of all loving exchanges. But the love that Radharani feels when she experiences my love is tens of millions of times greater than my own. What is the nature of her love? What is it that she experiences when she tastes the sweetness of my love? And what is the happiness she feels? For this reason, Lord Krishna appeared as Lord Chaitanya to taste the sweetness of Radharani's love. In subject of love, the love of the devotee conquers the object of love. Sri Radha and Krishna, in the Leela of Prem Sarovar, conquered each other with their feelings of spiritual love. And they have left that love in the form of the tears of their hearts for all of us to come to worship. By hearing this narration, we can bathe our hearts in the tears of their love. And by taking our bath in a humble and sincere state of mind, we can offer our bodies in a spirit of surrender to their mercy. Their mercy is their love. Bhakti Vinod Thakur has explained, when love of God manifests toward conditioned souls, it appears as compassion, mercy. Sri Radharani's incessant, infinite, supreme love for Krishna, when directed toward the fallen souls, is the supreme compassion. And that compassion of Srimati Radharani's love is our only hope. It is the only power that can free us from the shackles of Maya. And it is that love, that compassion of Srimati Radharani that is flowing through the Guru Parampara. It is that compassion of Srimati Radharani that has manifested in such a munificent way as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And spread throughout the world through the heart of our most beloved, worshipable Master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. When Lord Sri Krishna saw the infinite intensity of Radharani's love, feeling separation even when sitting beside him, he was thinking that even when I am beside Sri Radhika, her separation is so intense. Better if I go to Mathura and Dwarka. Because then in her separation, when she sees the tamal tree, or she sees any object, the peacock feather, then she will remember me. And she will feel my presence so deeply and feel pacified. Also, Krishna saw in Srimati Radharani that his presence in his bhav expansion within the heart of his devotees in the spirits of separation is so deep. It awakens such profound states of love that there is nothing that can compare to it. In Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Lord Krishna told Satyabhama Devi in Dwarka that the love of Sri Radha and gopis in Vrindavan, their love in separation from me is so deep They are embracing me and worshiping me with their love in the innermost core of their hearts. There's nothing higher. Even if I return to Vrindavan, I cannot give them a higher experience of my love than they are feeling now in separation. Prem Sarovar represents both Sambhog and Vipralamba, separation and union, simultaneously manifesting in a profound ecstasy that only Shri Radha and Krishna can share. This very deep, profound subject matter is so very, very far above our capacity to understand properly. But we hear it, and we understand, at least to some tiny extent, what Lord Chaitanya and what Srila Prabhupada are giving us. A position as the servant of the servant of the servant of these supreme loving affairs of Radha Govinda. Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that Srimati Radharani is like the creeper that is embracing Sham Sundar. And the Sakhis, the Gopis, the Manjaris, and all the associates are like the flowers on that creeper. Even though they may not be directly engaging in personal pastimes with Krishna in this way, the highest ecstasy, the same ecstasy of Radharani in quality, she shares with all those connected to her in her loving service to Govinda. Thus Mahaprabhu taught, nothing higher than servant of the servant of the servant of Sri Radharani. And we come to Prem Sarovar to honor and worship Sri Radha Govinda and pray for their mercy and chant their holy names. Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
with great sincerity, humility and gratitude, let us bow our heads. Let us offer our heads, which means offer our lives, in the dust of this holy place. And pray. Pray to be genuine, sincere in our desire to offer loving service at the lotus feet of Radha, Krishna and the Vaishnavas as the exclusive aim of our lives. Let us pray and long and beg that Sri Radha Govinda's affection upon us, coming through the mercy of the Guru and Vaishnavas, may free us forever from the shackles of false ego and useless material attachments. Let us pray that we could offer our life and dive deeply into the ocean of pure, unalloyed devotional service for their pleasure. Thank you very much. Jai Jai Sri Radha. Jai Jai Sri Radha. Jai Jai Sri Radha.
Idai Gaurari.
You see, this pastime is so deep and powerful. I'm really not qualified to say anything about it. Just when Shyam Sundar saw the incredible pain that Radharani felt, even in his presence, it was from here he decided that he would have to leave. The day after this pastime is when Akrura comes. Actually, where we were sitting at Kedarvan, just a few, maybe even just 2 kilometers from there, there's a place called Bijwari. Bijwari. That is where the gopis stopped Akrura, or actually attempted to stop Akrura. And when Akrura left on his way, they all fell down like thunderbolts. All these golden gopis were just lying here, and they looked like thunderbolts had fallen on the ground. Differ from, Bijli, it has gradually become Bijwari. So we were just this is one of the last pastimes that take place in Braj here. And Maharaj so very sweetly described this pastime. And our Raghunath Das Goswami, in his 108 names of Srimati Radharani, he's given one name that's so amazing. He says, Karuna Vidrava Deha. Karuna Vidravad Deha. Karuna, compassion. Maharaj was describing that wonderful compassion of Srimati Radhika. Vidravad means to melt. Now, ordinary living entities, their hearts melt with compassion. But Raghunath says, Deha. Radharani's whole transcendental form melts with compassion. Ordinary living in their hearts, but Radharani's whole transcendental form melts with compassion. Therefore we see in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that incredible compassion on all of us fallen souls. We have no way to understand this passage. We're talking all these words, prema vaichityam. We have no idea what it means. Maybe millions of lifetimes we'll understand something about it. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so merciful to us. He's that melted compassion of Srimati Radhika. Little drops of that compassion Srila Prabhupada has kept inside his books. Sometimes it's described like dropping bombs, but I rather feel it's like Prabhupada has taken that melted drops of Radharani's compassion, put it in his books, and our devotees are running here and there all over the planet, sprinkling Radharani's melted compassion over all the living beings. So powerful. We're hearing during Prabhupada's festival how so many people, just by coming in contact with Prabhupada's books, they became devotees. Even I have that letter where Prabhupada said, if they even touch our book, their life will be changed. I got that letter one day in the mail. I read it in the morning. The Prabhupada said, even if they just touch, they don't have to read, just touch the book. So one devotee went out and he was distributing, and those days we used to give out incense. Nobody's going to buy a book. So we used to give out incense, and then we'd give them a magazine, or a book or something. So the fellow gave a donation. He handed him a book. He said, no, I just like you guys. You take the, no, I don't need your book. He said, no, take it. He said, no, I don't want your book. I just like you guys. He said, well, touch it. Guy looked at him, what are you talking? Anyway, so he touched the book. He took 3 steps. He turned around. He said, give me that book. So these books, they're the melted compassion of Srimati Radharani. Devotees are running all over the world, sprinkling little sprays, little drops, this melted compassion of Radharani. That's why this book distribution is so important. So here in this place, we're just melting with Radharani's compassion. We should pray somehow or other we can become instruments to give pleasure to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada wants these books distributed. So whatever his desire of the pure devotee, Krishna wants to fulfill that desire. We just want to become the instruments to help Krishna somehow or other give pleasure to his pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, and distribute this compassion of Srimati Radharani to everyone on this planet. Hare Krishna. Jai Jai Sri
Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was asked, of all the places, where would you like to do your bhajan? And his devotees were surprised initially that he said Kurukshetra. And then they asked him why. And he said, because I am Radhika Dasya, and that was her greatest moment of need. And why was it her greatest moment of need? Because she was in separation. And I'm inspired by what His Holiness Radhanath Swami said. He was in separation, but separation in union. And this is actually the essence of the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. Actually, I'm thinking I was going to speak one thing, but it's a different topic and we don't have so much time. But what Krishna means is actually there's only one God. There's no difference in one sense between Narayan, Ramchandra, and Krishna. There's one person. But what makes Krishna, Krishna? Krishna means when God is Himself, and when God fully manifests Himself in the intimate love of His devotees. So this is the most full manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When He fully gives Himself in love, in reciprocation to the intense love of His devotees. And that state of love, as His Holiness Radhanath Swami explained, there's two types of Mahabhav, Prema Vivarta and Prema Vaichitya. There's two types of illusion. One type of illusion is you see what's not there, and another type of illusion is you don't see what's there. So Prema Vivarta means that the loving sentiments are so deep that even if Krishna is not there, Radharani sees Krishna. And Prema Vaichitya means the loving sentiments are so deep, even when Krishna is there, Radharani doesn't see Krishna. Because Srimati Radharani is Mahabhav Swarup. There's the Ladini Shakti, the pleasure potency. The essence of the pleasure potency is Krishna Prema. What is that Krishna Prema? The sentiment of the mood that I want the object of my love pleased. And when that intensifies to the highest degree, the sentiment that Krishna should be pleased, that Krishna should be happy, that is called Mahabhav. And the personification of that is Mahabhav Swarup. Radharani is composed of that intense sentiment, which is actually what pleases Krishna. And that's why even a jewel that Srimati Radharani is wearing is non-different than her. Because when she puts on that jewel, what is she thinking? Let Krishna be happy. So it's actually composed of that sentiment. Krishna should be pleased. So this is the goal. And the seed of that prem is given by the spiritual master. Brahmanda Brahmate Konya Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Pasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, what is the Bhakti Lata Bij? It's the conception that's put into your heart, the sentiment that's put into your heart, that I should act for the pleasure of Krishna and His devotees. And the whole process of Krishna consciousness is by practicing sadhana bhakti, especially Tara Madhye Nama Shreshta Sarva Shreshta Nama Sankirtan Nira Aparade Paya Premadan. Of all 9 processes of devotional service, the best is chanting the holy name of Krishna. And by chanting the holy name of Krishna, that sentiment, that desire, that feeling in the heart that my life is for Krishna, that I should please Krishna and His devotees, it intensifies more and more and more and more until it comes to the stage of prema, where there's nothing else in your consciousness but that sentiment. Sandrandana Visheshatma. It's very thick and deep. So that is the goal, and everything we do is secondary to that. We look at everything in relationship to how it brings us to that goal. So we come to these places where we hear about that sentiment from the devotees, from the Guru Parampara. And we pray that by hearing about this sentiment, we get the desire for it. And that's actually the perfection of our life. You got to do Jai Jai Sri Radha. Jai Jai Sri Radha. Nidai Gaurari.
Jayo Radhe Jayo Krishna Jayo Vrindavana Jayo Radhe Jayo Krishna Jayo Sri Govinda Gopi Nata Madana Moha Sri Govinda Gopi Nata Madana Moha Sri Govinda Gopi Natha Madana Moha Sri Govinda Gopi Natha Madana Moha Jayo Radhe Jayo Krishna Jayo Vrindavan Jayo Vrindavan Jayo Radhe Jayo Krishna Jayo Vrindavana Sri Govinda Gopinatha Madana Mohana Sri Govinda Gopinatha Madana Mohan Sri Govinda Gopinatha Madana Mohan Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Kalindi Yamuna Jamuna Jayo Jayo Mahavan
Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya
Kalindi Jamuna Jayo Jayo Mahavan
Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Everyone please. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayo Radhe, Jayo Krishna, Jayo Vrindavana. Jayo Radhe, Jayo Krishna, Jayo Vrindavana. Jayo Radhe, Jayo Radhe, Jayo Krishna, Jayo Vrindavana. Jayo Radhe, Jayo Krishna, Jayo Vrindavana. Sri Govinda Gopinatha Madana Mohana. Sri Govinda Gopinatha Madana Mohana.
पार करेंगे नैया रे बजो कृष्ण कन्हैया. 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 So for those who don't know Hindi, par means to cross. Just like you go in Delhi, on the other side of the Jamuna, Delhi has expanded, so that's called Jamuna Par. So to cross this ocean of material existence, we need a nice boat. The boat is singing the name of Kanhaiya. So we're asking our boatman, O Nayare, you please take us across this ocean of material existence by singing the name of Kanhaiya. पार करेंगे नैया रे बजो कृष्ण कन्हैया. पार करेंगे नैया रे बजो कृष्ण कन्हैया. कृष्ण कन्हैया दाऊ जी का भैया. कृष्ण कन्हैया दाऊ जी का भैया. कृष्ण कन्हैया दाऊजी का भैया कृष्ण कन्हैया पार करेंगे नैया रे बजो कृष्ण कन्हैया करेंगे नैया रे बजो कृष्ण कन्हैया पार करेंगे नैया रे बजो कृष्ण कन्हैया कृष्ण कन्हैया दाऊजी का भैया कृष्ण कन्हैया दाऊजी का भैया कृष्ण कन्हैया दाऊजी का भैया मखन चुरैया मखन चुरैया बंसी बजैया बंसी बजैया गिरी बारूदैया गिरी बारूदैया रास रचैया रास रचैया कृष्ण कन्हैया कृष्ण कन्हैया पार करेंगे नैया रे बजो कृष्ण कन्हैया पार करेंगे नैया रे बजो कृष्ण कन्हैया कृष्ण कन्हैया दाऊजी का भैया कृष्ण कन्हैया दाऊजी का भैया बंसी बजैया बंसी बजैया मखन चुरैया मखन चुरैया गिरी बारूदैया गिरी बारूदैया रास रचैया रास रचैया कृष्ण कन्हैया दाऊजी का भैया पार करेंगे नैया रे बजो कृष्ण कन्हैया पार करेंगे नैया रे बजो कृष्ण कन्हैया हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
By the mercy of Shri Guru and Gauranga, we have come to Sri Ram Ghat. Flowing just beside this temple is Yamuna Devi. After our discussion today Everyone, please do go down and offer your prayers to Yamuna Devi and take her sacred holy waters upon your head. Why the Yamuna flows in this place is the topic of today's narration. Previously it was flowing quite distance away, but how she changed her course to come here is a story. If we hear with faith and sincerity, it can transform our lives and awaken the essence of perfection, pure devotional service within our hearts. After many years of separation, the Brijabasis practically gave up all of their duties, sometimes even their eating and sleeping. Their hearts completely immersed in the remembrance of Krishna. That Lord Hari who had stolen their hearts, had stolen their lives. They remembered his smiles, his glances, his laughing, his sweet words, his dancing, his wonderful pastimes. In this way, every tree, every leaf, every blade of grass, all of the peacocks and the birds, the cows, the calves, the gopas and the gopis of all ages, according to their particular relationship with Krishna and how he reciprocated with them, they were immersed in serving him. To always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna in an absorption of love is the highest perfection of life. When Krishna was living in Dwarka, in separation, the residents of Vrindavan were manifesting the highest possible level of ecstatic love. Krishna was actually performing his pastimes within their hearts through their loving remembrances of him. And he was reciprocating personally within their hearts according to their remembrance. And we should know that such remembrance is never self-centered, because love is the complete surrender of one's will for the pleasure of the object of love. Therefore, when the residents of Vrindavan were remembering Krishna, all of their remembrances were in offering their lives, their body, mind, words, and souls for Krishna's happiness. And of course, Krishna is only satisfied with devotion. And they offered their hearts to Krishna. Balaramji was feeling great separation from the residents of Vrindavan himself. And also Lord Balaram is eternally providing all types of services for Lord Krishna. He expands himself to be the Dham of Vrindavan. He expands himself to be Krishna's shoes, Krishna's bed, Krishna's ornaments, Krishna's clothes. He expands himself to serve Krishna in every type of loving relationship. Sometimes he acts as Krishna's servant. Sometimes he's equally Krishna's intimate, loving friend. As an older brother, sometimes he is very protective of Krishna in Vatsalya Ras. And in order to participate in serving Krishna in the conjugal marrow of love, he expands himself as Srimati Radharani's younger sister, Ananga Manjari, to be intimately involved in the pastimes of Madhurya Ras. In this way, Sri Balaramji is forever serving Krishna. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the spirit of always serving. Srila Prabhupada, in one place, he said the only difference between Krishna and Balaram is Krishna has a complexion like a very, very beautiful, newly formed monsoon rain cloud. And Balaramji has a very beautiful complexion like a white, newly formed spring cloud. So Sri Balaramji understood Krishna's heart, that the residents of Vrindavan, especially the Braj Gopis, were burning in the fire of separation. And he was to go to Vrindavan to console them. He boarded his chariot. Krishna wanted to go too. But the members of the Yadu dynasty, they prevented him from doing so. Because the Dwarkavasis understood very clearly the nature of the sweetness of the love of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Krishna's supreme ornament is that although he is the controller of all controllers, and everyone is dependent on him, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitanam Eko Bahunam Yovaridati Kaman, that all living entities are always subordinate and controlled by the one supreme absolute truth, the cause of all causes, who is Krishna. But yet Krishna is subordinate, controlled, and dependent on prem, on the pure love of his devotees. The residents of Vrindavan, their love was so pure, of the highest state of ecstasy. Therefore, there is no one in all of existence, material or spiritual, that can give more pleasure to Krishna than the residents of Vrindavan. The queens of Dwarka would sometimes discuss amongst themselves how when one queen would say, when Krishna's sleeping at night, we know what he's dreaming. Sometimes he just calls out the names of Radha and Lalita and Vishaka and the gopis. And another queen said, why you say sleeping? Sometimes even when he's awake with his eyes open, he just goes into a trance, and the tears in his eyes start crying out the names of the residents of Vrindavan in separation. In fact, in one place, Sanatana Goswami describes that Krishna told the queens of Dwarka that the only reason I married all of you is because you remind me of gopis, and in separation from them. So they understood to some extent the sweetness of the spontaneous love of the residents of Vrindavan. If Krishna goes to Vrindavan and he sees the tears and the love of Nanda and Yashoda, and he experiences the spontaneous, ecstatic love of the gopis, he'll come under the control and he'll never be able to return to Dwarka. So therefore, the Yadus prevented him from going. So Balaram on his chariot went himself. And he arrived. When Balaramji arrived, the Brajavasis were overwhelmed with gratitude. In separation from Krishna and Balaram, it was only the remembrance of them that kept the Brajavasis alive. So they all came out to greet Balaramji. The elder gopis and gopas embraced him. Yashoda and Nanda, with great affection, placed Balaram on their laps and embraced him and covered him with the tears of their parental affection. Balaramji, according to his relationship with each devotee of Vrindavan, reciprocated accordingly. To the elder gopas and gopis, they would embrace him and he would touch their feet in respect. To his friends, he would laugh and embrace and speak joking words. And to those junior to him, he would give his blessings as they touched his feet. And they asked, especially Nanda and Yashoda, they were asking of the welfare of the Yadus. It is by our good fortune that the wicked demon Kamsa has been killed. He was causing so much disturbance, and our Krishna has slain him. And so many other demons we have heard. We have heard how he has killed so many other demons to relieve the distress of Vasudeva and Devaki. How are they doing now? Are they happy? How is their health? How is King Ugrasena? They were asking the welfare of all of their dear, dear friends from the Yadus. And then they asked about Krishna. Does he ever remember us? Will he ever return to us? What is he doing? In this way there was beautiful loving exchanges. And then Balaram met with the gopis, Krishna's most intimate, loving devotees. And the gopis inquired from Sri Balaramji, is Krishna happy in the majestic city of Dwarka, living with such magnificent, sophisticated queens? And Balaramji replied, how is it possible for Krishna to be happy without you? And gopis replied that he's now living with queens, ladies from the big, big city who are expert in everything they do. We are just very simple village girls. Does he ever remember us? Does he remember the flower garlands we would make for him? Does he remember when we would decorate his body with garlands of these flowers, and we would anoint his limbs with fresh sandalwood paste? Does he remember the fans we would make out of leaves and peacock feathers and fan him? Does he remember the sweets and other foodstuffs we would make and bring to the forest for him? Does he remember how we gave everything for him? Yes, we abandoned our husbands, our mothers, our fathers, our children, our homes, our wealth, our prestige. We abandoned everything for Krishna. And then Krishna abandoned us. Yet we trust his promise. Krishna promised us that he would return. And it is only that promise that keeps us alive. The gopis said, it is said that lovers, when they are together, they live, and when they are separated, they die. But in our case, Krishna has cast us in a condition where we neither live nor die. Does he ever remember us? If he doesn't remember us, at least does he remember Nanda and Yashoda? Will he ever come back to pacify their hearts? For years and years, day and night, they simply weep and cry in separation from their beloved son. Does he remember them? Will he ever return? One gopi said, why are you talking about Krishna? Why should we waste our time discussing topics of Krishna? Krishna is very happily and peacefully living without us. So we should just do the same thing. We should just happily go on with our lives and stop talking about and thinking about Krishna. But there's a problem. It's impossible for even a moment. Govinda has stolen our hearts. He's stolen our hearts and has kept it as his property. A moment does not pass when we are not immersed in remembrance of his smiles, his laughter, his glance, and his wonderful, wonderful pastimes. In this way, the gopis were remembering Krishna, his beautiful form, his activities, and the relations of love that he shared with them. And they simply cried and cried and cried. Lord Sri Balaram understood the supreme position of the gopis' transcendental love.